Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Kellen here again with Droid Life. Today we're taking a look at a phone that has some special meaning. Not only is it the follow-up to my favorite sleeper phone of 2016, but it's also the follow-up phone to the one that kicked off our entire series of video reviews like this one. Yes, it's Moto Z2 Playtime, and I've been looking forward to this one. So can it live up to the original Moto Z Play, aka the king of all battery life? Well, it comes pretty close, I'll say that. But let's dive further in there. This is our Moto Z2 Play review. To recap, the Moto Z2 Play is by no means a flagship or top tier level phone, and it's not trying to be. This is a mid-range-ish device that packs solid specs along with Motorola's typically impressive software experience and which should be incredible battery life. For specs, you've got a 5.5-inch Full HD AMOLED display, Snapdragon 626, 32 gig storage with 3 gig RAM, a 12 megapixel camera, and a 3000 milliamp hour battery with turbocharging. Since this is a Moto Z family member, you also get access to all those Moto mods you may find desirable. The phone costs about $400 on Verizon, and this is the Verizon variant, but will run for around $500 as an unlocked unit later this year. At that time, we'll likely get an upgrade to 64 gig storage and 4 gig RAM to justify that price hike. Alright, so what's good about this phone? Well, as a mid-range device, it has its drawbacks, but there are some positives here for sure. We're talking about that battery life again, the software and performance, and the Moto mod experience. But let's start with the battery, since this was largely what made last year's Moto Z Play so good. This year we've dropped the battery capacity from 3510 mAh to 3000 mAh, which is certainly disappointing on paper. The battery life here is still quite good though, and will get you through a day without worry, but last year we had that crazy almost 2 full day battery life, and that's just not happening here. It's still really good, like 4, 5, 6 hours of screen on time good, it's just dropped in overall time between charges. Let's also not forget that this thing charges fast with included turbocharger, so topping it off should you need to won't be a problem. But again, battery life is still very good, it's just not game changing like it was on last year's Z Play. The software experience is top notch here as well. Motorola is still sticking to its approach of that pure Google-esque Android style with their own custom tweaks thrown alongside it. So you've got Moto Display again with some improvements that make dealing with notifications easier. Moto Voice that has this cool show me command that gives you quick bits of info or access to apps, and Moto Actions to perform tasks like chopping to activate the flashlight, using the fingerprint scanner for navigation, and twisting to launch the camera. Motorola even changed up their launchers, giving you a Pixel launcher-like experience with Google Now just off to the side once you turn off this other gimmicky ad-filled thing. And the rest is basically stock Android the way us Android purists like it. I do wish there was a nightlight mode offered with a bit more control. There is one, it's just a Moto Action that lacks most controls. And there are some minor things like this odd auto rotate switch. For the most part, it's all good, we just have to hope that Motorola will push timely updates to it. As of this review, it's already 2 months behind on security patches. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a Z family member, so Moto mods are there if you want them. The lineup is getting a lot better too. We've now got a turbocharger mod that does get you quicker charges on the go, a wireless mod that lets you charge on a wireless pad, and a new Sound Boost 2 speaker from JBL. You can also go back and pick up the Hasselblad camera, style shells you like, other battery packs, the Pico projector, and even the old Sound Boost speaker. Remember, as a Z phone, they all still work no matter which phone you have. So do these offer that much of an appeal though? Well, I think so, and I say that because Motorola is fully invested and has even more on the way, like a DSLR mod, 360 camera mod, and even another speaker. These mods still aren't cheap, but they do give you potential future feature additions and functionality that most phones just don't have access to. Other good items I'd point to would be the headphone jack, only because you just never know where manufacturers are going in this category these days, that solid $400 price at Verizon, and a quick fingerprint reader that has a neat on-off long press trick. In terms of the stuff I'm not a fan of, I'd have to point to the slight reduction in battery size, the overall design, an average camera, and the lack of availability at the moment. Now, I know I just praised the phone's battery life for the most part, it's just that last year's phone was the king, and you hope that that title carries over to the next one. You hope that that's the specific selling point of this phone like it was last year. But instead, Motorola wanted to go super trim and reduce the battery size. Again, battery life is still full day, it's just not full day and beyond. On that note, the thinness of this phone, the overall design that Motorola's locked themselves into feels a bit tired already. You see, Moto wants their Moto mods to work with up to 3 years worth of phones. So this is the design we get, which is the same design from last year and will likely be the same design next year. It's not a terrible design, it's just not fresh or new at this point. And the ridiculous thinness makes for a phone that can be awkward to hold at times, Also, there's a sharp flatness and an edge, along with quite a bit of width to the phone that doesn't exactly make it the best feeling phone in hand. The camera here is okay by mid-tier standards. You've got a 12 megapixel f1.7 shooter that excels in good lighting and not so much in poor lighting. Indoors, I capture a decent shot here or there, but that was pretty hit or miss with details and overall processing. Outdoors, though, I took some photos I certainly liked. The software experience is pretty nice since you can quickly launch the camera with a twist of a wrist, use a familiar button layout, and access 4K video, slow motion, panorama, professional modes. It's all there for a modern day smartphone shooter, and again, it's just kind of what you would expect from this type of phone in this price range. And finally, as for availability, like I said, you can buy the phone on Verizon right now for a decent $400 price. However, when this thing launches as an unlocked model later this year, we're expecting the price to jump up another $100. So yeah, Verizon has an early exclusive, and that's pretty frustrating for anyone wanting a Z2 Play right now. So here's the thing, the Moto Z2 Play is another solid Moto Z phone with a decent price. You get good battery life or really good software experience, and you have access to Moto mods if those are your thing and you see some value there. I'd even argue that for a mid-tier phone, the camera is totally fine. My only really negatives are that the design's starting to feel a little bit dated, the battery life is a downgrade from last year's Moto Z Play, and then you have to remember that when the unlocked version comes out later this summer for an extra $100, I just don't know why you would buy this over, say, the OnePlus 5. So yeah, the Moto Z2 Play it's fine.